Every year, it's the same story. Delhi disappears under this thick, choking blanket of smog. And like clockwork, we all start talking about the usual causes. But what if the biggest reason for this nightmare isn't just the pollution we're creating? What if it's the very ground the city is built on? Let's dig into that hidden geography. Yeah, we all know this list by heart, right? Stubble burning from farms, all the traffic, industrial smokestacks, and of course, firecrackers during Diwali. These are all huge sources of pollution for sure, and they totally dominate the headlines. They're the problem we can see. But here's the thing. What if focusing only on those sources is like trying to bail out a sinking boat with a teacup? What if there's a much bigger, more permanent force at play that's trapping all that junk in the air? A villain that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. The geography itself. Okay, so to really get this, we have to stop thinking about Delhi as just a city on a map. We need to look at it as a point on an elevation map, because that's where the story really begins, with something called a topographical trap. To see this trap, you gotta look at the giant landforms that box the region in. To the north, you have the Himalayas. I mean, that is a massive, impenetrable wall of rock. And then down to the southwest, you have the Aravalli Hills. Think of these as two giant natural walls that frame this huge flat plain. And Delhi? It's sitting right in the middle of this vast area, the Indo-Gangetic Plain. But here's the catch. This plain isn't perfectly flat, not at all. It's actually a kind of shallow geographical depression. It's a natural basin, almost like a giant shallow bowl formed by the higher ground on either side. And we are not talking about some tiny dip in the ground. The difference in elevation creates a basin that's roughly 500 meters deep. Just think about that for a second. The city is literally at the bottom of a half-kilometer deep topographical bowl. This isn't just some abstract idea, it's a physical reality. So, why does this bowl matter so much? Well, it comes down to basic physics. The really nasty pollutants, the stuff we call PM 2.5 and PM 10, they're not gases. They're tiny physical particles. They have weight, so they don't just float off into space. Gravity pulls them down, and they settle into the lowest possible point, which, for this entire region, is the bottom of that bowl where Delhi is. So the ground is already trapping pollution from below, but the situation gets so much worse in the winter. Why? Because a second trap forms, but this time it's above the city. It's basically a ceiling made of air. This wild phenomenon is called a temperature inversion. Now, normally, the air is warmest near the ground, and it's colder as you go up. That allows warm air, and the pollution with it, to rise and spread out. But in the winter, that whole system can literally flip upside down. Here's exactly how that lid gets formed. On a clear winter night, the ground loses its heat really, really fast. That makes the air right above it cold and heavy. But the air a little higher up, it stays warmer. So you end up with this weird sandwich effect, a layer of cold, dense air stuck at the bottom with a layer of warmer, lighter air on top of it. And that warm layer acts like a lid, physically stopping the cold, polluted air from rising. I mean, it is quite literally a lid made of air. A temporary, invisible ceiling that just presses down on the city, making sure that whatever pollution gets pumped out that day has absolutely nowhere to go. Okay, so now let's put these two pieces together, the geographical bowl on the bottom and this atmospheric lid on top. This is when you start to see how Delhi gets sealed inside a perfect atmospheric trap. Just imagine a giant invisible box has been put over the city. The top of the box is sealed shut by that inversion lid. The northern wall is the Himalayas, the southwestern wall is the Aravalli Range, and the floor of the box is the ground itself. All the pollution is generated inside this box, and it just has no escape route. And this whole thing peaks in November and December, which is when the final locking mechanism clicks into place. As you can see, the biggest factor by far is that the winds just die down. The strong monsoon winds that could clear the air are gone, and the winter winds are just too weak to flush out all that stagnant, trapped air. Without that mixing, the polluted air inside the box just sits there and sits there. The result of this perfect storm of geography and weather is stagnation. New pollution is added every single day, but the old stuff can't leave. So the concentration just builds and builds and builds, day after day, for weeks on end, until the air becomes this toxic, visible soup. So when you understand this geographical and atmospheric trap, it forces you to look at the entire problem in a completely new light. It's not just about what we're doing, but about where we're doing it. This can feel a little hopeless, can't it? If the problem is literally the land and the sky, then what's the point of any of it? Are we just doomed to this reality every year? The answer is a clear and absolute no. In fact, understanding this reality makes the fight against pollution more urgent, not less. It's more important than ever before. The key is to reframe the problem. This isn't just a simple pollution problem. You could call it a structural disadvantage. Delhi's very location, its geography, and its climate create this natural tendency for pollution to get trapped and accumulate, no matter where it's coming from. It's kind of like trying to stay dry in a place that's naturally a floodplain. You wouldn't just use a small umbrella and hope for the best. You'd have to build massive, strong levees. For Delhi, cutting emissions, that's the levee. And it just has to be so much stronger and more aggressive than anywhere else simply because that geographical flood of bad air is always, always coming. And this really says it all. The smog that chokes Delhi every winter isn't some temporary failure of policy or just a random event. It's a condition that's born from human activity, combined with the very structure